Welcome to this course on practical Java interview questions. In this, we will be covering some of the most definitely asked coding questions. These coding questions play an important role during the interview process, right from software developer all the way till architects. We will be covering the solution to these coding questions, which will enable you to clear interviews very easily. The first question which comes in our mind is why we have to see this entire course. The main reason for seeing this entire course is today's industry demand is people or software engineers who have good coding capabilities. To develop the coding capability, we have to learn how to think logically and how to convert that logic to design. The major part of any problem goes in solution building, which involves both the logic development, designing, and converting it to appropriate code. These three things will be covered as a part of this course. The advantage of doing this is you will clearly be able to build logic and try solving complex problems, thus enabling you to solve any such complex problems which will be asked during the course of coding round. From this course, you can expect many unanswered questions, but to start with, we are planning 25 mostly asked questions, but which are seldom answered. The solution focuses on Java, but the solution can work with any other programming language as the focus is mostly on logic designing and then converting the same to Java code. To start with, in this session, we will see two major problems which are generally asked. The first problem pertains to a game which is very common, which is known as snake and ladder. So we will be covering this entire problem in depth along with the corresponding code. We'll be starting with a very simple program and overall evolve it to be used by multiple players. The second problem, which is again mostly asked but seldom anyone writes it correctly, is connection pooling. We will be showing how connection pooling can be achieved with the help of a code, along with details pertaining to some of the implementations of connection pooling. Post looking at these two videos, you can then share this video with all the people. In case you do this, you will be eligible to receive our free third video, which focuses on telephone directory implementation in Java. So request all of you to share this video, as sharing is one of the best way to spread knowledge and information. And as we know, in today's world, information is power. Welcome to the series Practical Java Interview Questions. In this series, we intend to cover questions which are asked as a part of Java interview. We will be covering the practical questions or the questions which are asked in the coding round of Java. Many people are able to answer theoretical questions of Java by looking at some questions available in internet, but where they majorly fail is writing logic for certain questions which are asked. This is mainly due to lack of exposure to such questions. As a result, we will be covering these questions as a part of this series. The first question which we have as a part of this series is snake and ladder problem. A commonly asked question is to design a solution pertaining to snake and ladder. Snake and ladder is one of the game which is very famous, especially with children across various countries. So just to give a brief of this game for those who do not know about it, as you can see, we have rows and columns in this game with values starting from 1 to 100. At certain places, you will be able to see a ladder. So A ladder is a place where you can go from one point to another point. As you can see, a ladder is present at 5. From 5, we can go to 35. Same way, at some positions, there will be snakes. Now, whenever you go to a position at snake, it will bring you down. For example, if you look at this location where we have 54, a snake is present, a mouth of snake is present, and from there we will come to 17, correct? We will come to the tail. So at certain positions, you have chances of going up, and at certain positions, you have chances of coming down. A game can have more than one participant, and the winner is the one who reaches 100. Now, how the game is played is, it's played with the help of a dice. As you can see, a dice has 6 sides starting from 1 to 6. So each player can roll the dice. Now, when they roll the dice, based upon the points in the dice, they will move starting from 1, and their aim is to reach 100. Now, if 6 comes in the dice, then the player can roll again, provided he doesn't land up into a snake mouth. Now, let's say if someone is at line number or point number 97 and he gets 6, then he cannot move to 100. From 97 to reach 100, he has to exactly get 3. So this is one condition which we have to keep in mind. So very simple game, snakes and ladder. From coding perspective, these are some of the points which we need to capture. We need to capture the points where the snake's mouth is there, which is also known as head, and where the snake tail goes, correct? Because when we are in the game, when we are hit by the snake head, we have to move all the way till the tail, correct? Same way, we will also have to capture the positions where ladder starts and ends, correct? Especially where the ladder starts, it's that point from where you will move towards the end. Now, you will also have to capture the dice value. Capturing the dice value is very important as such, correct? Because as I told you, there are rules pertaining to getting 6. If in the dice you get 6, you have a chance to play again, provided you have not landed yourself into snake bite. Now, game ends if player reaches the end, correct? When we say end, a normal snake and ladder ends at 100. And I told you earlier the rule that if a person is present at 97, he can go to 100 only if he gets 3. So that's the way the game works, and that's the way we will have to make our solution. Now, since we have positions to capture, like the starting point and the ending point, one of the common data structure which we can think about for this solution is map. Now, we will require a map to capture all the snakes. We will also require the map to catch all the ladder, correct, correspondingly. So, we will be creating a new Maven project with name snake and ladder. So, we create snake and ladder as an example. So, within this project, we will be creating our program to perform the game or perform the tournament for snake and ladder. So we will create a new package, call it as com.vishwa.snake ladder. Okay, and within this we will create our Java class. Let's call it as game main. Now within this class, of course, we will have public static void main as the starting point of our program. Now, as I told you, we will have to create locations where snake exists and positions where ladder exists, correct? So what we can do is we can create static methods which will return us a map of integer comma integer. Now we are able to use integer because we know that we have a mapping to store, correct? So we can call it as get snake positions. And within this, what we will do is we can import the java dot map interface, correct? And correspondingly, we will also have to import hash map. So what we will do is we will create a map entry to store the snake positions, correct? So we can create a tree map and we can return this. Of course, we will have to store the positions, correct? So this is our method to get positions of the snakes. Same way, we will also create a similar method for storing the ladder positions, correct? So get ladder positions. Now, some people can think they can use a single map for doing this, which is also fine, but we are keeping it separate so that it becomes easy for us to manage. So let's look at locations where snake exists, correct? So the mouth of snake exists at 54 and ends at 17. So we can go and say snake positions dot put the first place where it was at 54 and it goes all the way till 17, correct? So we will say 54, 17. Same way, the second one exists at 68 and goes to 47, correct? So you can copy this line as it is and we will change the locations 68 and that goes all the way till 47 if I'm not mistaken, correct? So it's 47. So we are capturing the positions wherever the snake head and tail exist, correct? So in that way, we will be able to clearly know the locations and in case the user lands up in snake, where does he land himself finally, correct? Same way, there is a snake at 82 and it goes till 21. So 82 to 21. And finally, we also have one more snake as per this diagram. It exists at 96 and lands in 43. Correct? So 96 and lands in 43. So this is the way we have designed our snake positions. Same way we will also make our ladder positions. Correct? So we'll again have to capture where the ladder exists. So the ladder position starts at 5 and ends in 35. So we can say 5 comma 35. In a similar way, copy it 2-3 times so that we have another ladder at 30 ending at 53. So we can say 30 ending at 53, correct? So, and we similarly have a ladder at 67 ending at 73. So 67 ending at 73. And the last one which we have is 59 to 83, correct? So we can have 59 to 83. So 59 to 83. So in this way, we have captured 59 to 83. Yes, that's correct. So we have captured the different locations where the ladder exists. So this both will help us in maintaining the locations. So what we will do is we will create a map of map of integer and call this within our main method. Now here we have used hard-coded values. You could have also loaded this from properties, correct? As such. So ladder positions equals get ladder positions. Same way, if I use snake positions, we will get snakes positions in the given diagram, correct? So positions, and we can say get snake positions. As told earlier, you could have also maintained all this in a single map, which is also fine. The only reason we created this as separate methods to have distinction very clear. Now, in this game of snake and ladder, there can be number of participants. So at first, we will have to capture the number of participants, correct? So to capture the number of participants from the user, we will make use of scanner. So scanner, let's say scan equals new scanner, and within that I can give system.in. So this will allow us to capture the input from the console, correct? And we can get the number of participants, int number of participants, by saying scan dot next int. Okay, so we can capture the number of participants like this. Okay, so that way we will get the number of players, and we can just print out the number of players. Our next task is to create a function to roll dice, correct? So each of the participant will roll dice, and they will get a random output from this. And we know that the dice can occur from 1 to 6. So that is the range in which the dice can come. We can say int dice value equals math. Math contains a method by using which we can generate random numbers between range, correct? So we will be using that to correspondingly generate random numbers. We can make use of math.random, but the problem with math.random is it generates any numbers. So instead of that, what we can do is we can make use of the random class which is available in Java. So we have a random. Now using this random, we can make use of random not next int, and you can see it takes an upper bound. So we can give the bound as 7 minus 1 plus 1. This is a general way to create. So 7 minus 1, the 7 is exclusive, so it will generate numbers only within the range of 1 to 6. And since it's one bond less, that's why we will have to do plus 1. Okay, so this is the way it will generate numbers between 1 to 6. And what we will do is we will print out that value. Dice value is, and then do plus dice value. This will print the dice value also, and we will return the dice value back. Now comes the logic of the game. So we will have to catch a Boolean value. Is game end, which will be initially false, correct? So we will set this variable to true whenever the game is done. So till the game is not done, we will keep on looping. Now another thing what we will require is a variable to indicate current player, correct? So current player equals 1, and we will also require a collection to store the score of each participant. So within the while loop, we will first print the player number. So system.out.println player is plus current player. So as we know, the current player will give the number of the player who is currently playing. Also, to store the score of each of these players, we will require an array. So let's create an integer array. Let's call it scores equals new integer, and that will occupy the same number as the number of participants, correct? we know array starts with 0. So we will initialize everything to 0. So int I equals 0. I is less than number of participants and I plus plus. And we will say score of I equals 0. So the score of each player is 0. We can also here print the score, or we can print it in the above line itself. Current player is this much plus score is. Now score will be stored in the array, and array starts with 0. So we will have to say score of current player minus 1. Now we have to do this because current player starts with 1, while within the array the index starts with 0. So that's why we will have to do this. Next, what we will do is we will have the user roll the dice. So dice value equals, we will call the roll dice method, which will give us a random dice. Now we will create a temporary score. So this will be the score where the user should reach. So that will be the current score of user. So current score of user, which is current player minus 1 plus dice value. Yes. So this will be the place where the user will land himself after rolling the dice. Now this temporary score can go to a ladder or it can go to a snake position. So to determine that, we will have to make use of a if loop. So we will say if snake positions dot contains key. So if the temporary score is present there, then the user will not go to the location which we found out first, but will go to the location which is given by the value of the score, correct? If snake bites, he will go lower. So that's why we will have to make this like this. If this is not the case, then if ladder position contains temporary score, then again, just like the above, we will say temp score equals ladder positions dot get temp score. So he will go to the location which will be ahead due to the ladder, correct? We know ladder, we always go to the higher location. So both of these values are captured here. Now just to make it interesting, we will say system.out.println snake bite, correct? And here we will say system.out.println ladder climb. Along with this, we will also create few Boolean variables. So Boolean is snake bite, Boolean is ladder climb, and Boolean is dice 6. So these are the three Boolean values which we have created. We will initialize all of them to false because we will come to know whether they are at this location only when we go through the condition, correct? So what we will do is we can is snake bite equals true. Now here we can say is ladder climb equals true. Now is dice value 6, correct? That also we require, so that we can check here itself. So is dice 6 equals dice value equals 6. So if the dice value comes 6, each dice will become true, else it will become false. If you want to make it more readable, you can put a bracket. Bracket is just for our understanding. It will anyways evaluate to true or false. So this is how it looks. So now why we require this condition? Because as I told you, if the dice comes 6, then the same player can continue, provided he didn't land up in a snake position. If snake bites him even after getting 6, he cannot continue. Now, if the user gets dice 6, but if he comes into a snake position, then he cannot get a retry. But in other cases, he will get retry. So we will have to check for that. Also, we will have to check if after the dice, after the calculation of temp score, if temp score equals 0, correct? If it's equal to 0, then what will happen is we can say game over, correct? The game will be over. So is game end equals true. And we can say system dot out dot println winner is current player. Now, now let's say user is at 97, but he gets a 6. In this case, he will not get a retry. So we will have to check for that. Now we will have to go for the retry condition. So for retry, the most important condition is snake should have not hit the user, and we can have many conditions. And the second condition, which is very important, is temp score cannot be greater than 100. So it should be less than or equals to 100. Correct? Temp score cannot be greater than 100. As I told you, if the user is at 97 and even if he gets a 6, there will be no retry. Okay, assuming there is no retry, we are right in this condition. If you want retry, you can remove this condition. But in normal games, if it's greater than 100, then no retry is given. And we have one more condition, that is ladder climb. So is dice 6 or is ladder climb, correct? So if any of these cases, if dice is 6 and ladder is climbed, then user will be allowed for retrial provided the temp score is less than 100. And if snake bite did not occur, correct? In each of these cases, retry will be allowed. Other than this, so if I put a negation of all this, so other than this, there will be no retry, correct? So we can say else. Here we can say sys out. We'll just put a system dot out dot println current user, which is given by current player, gets retry, correct? So we just put that condition. Else what we will do is there is no retry, so we will have to increase the current player. So the current, if we have 3 current players, current player started with 1. So next will be 2, next will be 3. After 3, again it's a round robin fashion. So I will have to first check if current player equals number of participants, correct? If is equal to number of participants, then current player will start with 1 again. Else current player equals current player plus 1, or you can just do plus plus, correct? Whatever you prefer. Current player plus plus. So that's the way this will reflect. So the current player will change after each round robin fashion, correct? Now, one thing which we did not do is we did not capture the score. So the final thing is we will have to store the score of the current player, and that score is given by temp score, correct? So if he is hit by a snake or if he climbs a ladder, in any of this case, the temp score is reflected. And in normal cases, if that is not the case, then the temp score will be the value of the current score plus dice value, correct? So we have reflected that also. So I think this should do the trick for playing tournament. So this is how we can make an example where we extended the example to make a tournament, correct? So this is how it works. Now we can try this with few scenarios and see whether we want to continue. Now, one more thing is after roll dice, we might want the user to have a roll dice post pressing some button, correct? So again, we can use a scanner. Scanner equals new scanner, and we can say system.in, correct? And then we can say scanner dot, we can say next, correct? So whatever the user enters, whatever button user enters, then it will go for role. So we can say here system.out.println enter some key to roll dice. So this will make it more interesting. So again, I repeat, we check for snake bite, ladder climb, or dice 6. We roll the dice, we get the value. Now, based upon where the value is, we check for whether this should be 100, not 0. This should be 100. Whether the temp score is 100, whether the snake position comes into picture or ladder position comes into picture. In any of these cases, we increase the score and correspondingly, we show the corresponding value. Now, only one thing before storing the score is, we will have to check if the score is, if temp score less than equals to 100, correct? Because we don't want to store the temp score if the value is greater than 100. So we just put this condition and then we are good. So this is the way this program will work. So now time to try out whether this will work as expected, correct? To indicate the starting point, let's put one more sys out at the start saying welcome to snake and ladder tournament. And in the next line, we will say sys out enter number of users, correct, which is very important for us, and then move forward. So these are the two things which we changed. We will have to make one small change here. We know that the index of our array starts with 0, so we will make it current player -1. And one more small change which we will have to do is, to have enter as an option, we will have to use next line, correct? Instead of using next. Scanner.next line is capable of taking enter. So we just made this small change to our program and correspondingly run it. So now let's see how it works. Let's say the number of users is 2. Enter some dice, I press enter. Enter some key, I press enter again. You see this program keeps on going like this. So as and when it will go to a snake or ladder, correspondingly it will either increase or decrease, correct? So this is how this program will work. Great. So you will see correspondingly snake bites or ladder comes. You see a snake bite occurred. So the user is rolled back again. So that's the way it works. So this is how the program works. You see earlier the player 1 had some score, but after snake bite, its score would have gone down correspondingly. So this is a simple program to deal with snake and ladder. So as a last part of this exercise, it's better to document, correct? So we will just document some parts for ease of understanding. Loading snake and ladder positions. And then get number of participants. And then we will say game. And say game finish logic. Because this loop has to terminate somewhere when the user gets 100. Correct? So this is the snake bite logic. This is the end logic, snake bite logic, and correspondingly ladder logic, and then score update logic, and so on, correct? So this is how this program works. This is the logic for next user or retry, correct? Retry in the case of this. So this is how we created a program to do snake and ladder. The advantage of the way we wrote the program is that it can extend to any number of users. And this becomes a full tournament, which is what people expect. Now we can further enhance it by using threading and so on. But this is the core logic on which you can base up many other things, correct? Now someone might argue that instead of keeping hard-coded values, you can read the values from the property files, which is fine. or we can even read it from a database. Same way, the number of users can come dynamically from database and so on. So that changes can be done, but the core logic remains same. Now you can make it more object oriented by creating a game class and correspondingly having this logic in the game class. But as told earlier, the major focus of such practicals is to see how you can build the logic. And this clearly demonstrates how to build the logic. Of course, you will have to know the basic knowledge of arrays and collections from Java perspective. If you are unaware about it, I will request you to go through our videos on collections, which will help you in much deeper understanding of these collections and also how and where to use it. So this successfully completes our session on this practical exercise. Now this practical exercise, even though in Java, can be useful from any technological perspective and it will help in logic building. We will look forward to have more such practical examples made available to you so that you can benefit and use it and hopefully clear interview and land into the dream company of yours. Thank you. Connection pool. This is again a common question which is asked in interview, especially at the coding round. We will have a look at what connection pool provides, its advantages, and correspondingly we will also implement connection pool. The problem statement says implement connection pool. Connection pooling can be implemented anywhere where we have logical connections, but more or less it is widely used with database. Hence the problem statement says implement connection pool more or less with respect to database. In our example, we will implement the connection pool using MySQL. So what is connection pool? We can say connection pooling is a data access pattern. It's a pattern which deals more with data. Generally, connection pool maintains a cache of connections. It will include all the available connections as well as the connections which are at use. The major aim of using this pooling is to reuse the connections. Since creation of connection is a time-consuming resource, hence reusing it makes it more easier to use. Also, it reduces the overhead. As told earlier, creating a connection takes time. Hence, by making the connections available, it reduces the overhead involved with its creation as well as enables reusing. Shown is one of the possible solution for connection pooling. Here we will maintain a pool of available connections. This pool of available connection will store n number of connections where n stands for the initial capacity. Now the capacity can be increased based upon our need. As of now, let's consider n connections. As and when the request for a connection is raised to the pool, a collection will be allocated to the given request. This will keep on happening till there are connections in the pool. Once the available connection becomes blank, the caller has to wait till a connection is made available. If waiting is not allowed, then a null object can be returned back. So the solution revolves around maintaining a collection of available connection as well as maintaining connections which are under use. As you can see, the arrow indicates that the connections after use are given back to the available pool, thus promoting reuse. Let's see how can we implement this with the help of Java. The database which I am going to consider is MySQL database. This connection pooling which we are going to implement can work with any database. But for the sake of simplicity, we are taking MySQL as a reference. As a result, we will have to add the dependency of MySQL within our pom.xml. You can see that we have included this dependency of MySQL connector Java so that we can make use of this JDBC connector to connect to the database. Within our package, we will create a new package and name it as connection pool. Also, we will create a new package with name util. Now within util, we are going to create a new class with name connection util. Now, as I told you earlier, we are going to make use of database connection. So our first step will be to create a method which gets us a connection. So connection, get connection or create connection, create DB connection. Okay, so this needs to be imported. So we can say import java.sql.star. Within this package, we will have our connections. So the first step will be to initialize the jar. The code for initializing the jar is given. We have a try catch block where we try to load this driver class. Please note, this is the new driver class coming with the new MySQL driver. Earlier, the driver class was different. We didn't have CJ within it. But within the new version of MySQL jar, we have the CJ included within the entire package. So this is one of the change, especially with respect to MySQL. Now, instead of using MySQL, if you are using any corresponding other database, you will have to use the driver class for that database. Now, driver class changes from database to database. So you are free to use whatever database driver is available for your particular database. Now our next step will be to create the connection object. So connection equals, we have a driver manager class. Okay, so within driver manager class, we can get connection. To get connection, we require DB URL. We also require username and corresponding password. So all these three things needs to be passed as function arguments. So we can say string DB URL, comma string username, string password. Now this can throw an exception, so we will have to store this within try catch. So we can say try as of now we will do e.pinch_trackTrace. This should be eventually replaced with loggers, but for the sake of simplicity, I have just included the standard print stack trace, which is available with exception, and we will return connection. The one thing is, this try catch of loading can go within a static block. So we can create a static block. Static block is evaluated earlier itself at the time of class loading. So we can place this within the static block so that it did not get loaded each and every time. So this is how the code looks of making the connection. So again, as usual, we will format our code so that it looks a bit more good. This is the utility class which allows us to create a DB connection. Now we will use this class within our pooling class. So let's call this as DB connection pool. Now within this DB connection pool, we will expose a public method which returns a connection. So we can say DB connection pool get DB connection pool, correct? So we want to create a DB connection pool, and we can pass list of properties or a map of properties or simply properties. To keep it simple, let me pass these properties, correct? We will require DB URL. We can also pass string username as well as string password. Now one more optional attribute which we can pass is int initial capacity, correct? So how much initial number of collections we want to maintain in the pool. Now here we can make this as static, and we will again maintain a private static list of connection object, and we can name it as available connections. So we have a list of available connections. We'll have to import the corresponding interfaces and packages. Now what we will do is, when we say get DB collection, now instead of making this static, we can keep it private so that it becomes available at the variable level and create a private constructor. Now within this private constructor, we can pass these properties which we have. So that it can use it correspondingly in creating objects. So we can say for int I equals 0, I is less than initial capacity, I plus plus, a standard for loop. And within this, we can put our try catch block. And within this, we can create our connections and add it within available connection, correct? So we can say this dot available connection dot add, and here we can call our connection utils dot. So let's see that the connection util public static, correct? We have to make this as a static method because it's an utility method. Utility methods are generally static, so we can say connection util dot create DB connection, correct? And we will have to pass the DB URL followed by the username followed by the password. So these are the available connections. So we are creating the number of connections and adding it to the available connection. We are able to do this because we have initial capacity, correct? So here we can return new DB connection pool with all these properties which we passed as a part of the method. Creating this constructor as private indicates no one else can call this other than the function within this class, correct? So the static method is exports so that they can get the DB connection. So similarly, we can pass n number of parameters, but to keep it simple, I just used few parameters. Our next task will be to create a list of connection, and we will say that as occupied connections, and also name it as busy connections, up to you. I call it as occupied connections. Now what we will have to do is, here we will have to expose a public method, public connection retrieve connection. Correct? Now within retrieve connection, we will check if available connection dot is empty. Great. So if these connections are empty, we will correspondingly print a message system.out.println no connection available. Correct. Else we can return a connection object. So let's say connection equals null, and here I will say connection equals available connections dot get 0. Correct, and we will add this connection to the occupied connections dot add connection, and we can then remove it from the available connections. This will get removed, and at final we can return the connection object which we created. This is the method which will allow us to retrieve the connection. It can come null. We can also throw an exception in case connection is not available. It's up to us. Again, to keep it simple, I just returned null whenever the connection is not available. Just like retrieve connection, we will also have to create a method. We can call it Boolean and say release, which will release the connection. For releasing connection, we will require the connection object. What can we do is, we will do vice versa. Available connection dot add connection object, and again Boolean is removed equals, we can say occupied connection dot remove. Remove can also take an object, so we will pass the connection object, and then finally return is removed. Again, to make it more interesting, we will just put a sysout system.out.println connection released plus is removed. Same way, here at the time of getting connection, we can say connection received. So this is how we can retrieve the connection and create a release method. So by using toList, we are able to maintain a list of available connections as well as the list of occupied connections. Now the second list is optional. If you remove it from the main list and then again add it after use, that's also fine. But we just kept it so that we can get various statistics of how many connections are occupied at any point of time. So this completes the simple DB connection pool implementation. Now our next step will be to use it. As the next step, let's create a DB connection pool test class to test this. Now within this, we will create public static void main, within which we will create db connection pool, db connection pool dot get db. For first argument is URL, so I can pass this DB URL. So in the case of MySQL, we pass the DB URL like this. It indicates the IP address and the port and the database name. We already have a database with user app created in my local, so I am using the same. You can see there are dogs and users table. This is followed by the username and the password. Now in real world, you will never give out a password like this. We will try to encrypt and decrypt the password correspondingly so that it becomes easy to share the code, correct? Now one more argument which is pending is the initial capacity. So let's say initial capacity is 10. So 10 collections will be available in the form of cache and which can be used correspondingly, correct? So what we will do is we can say connection 1 equals db connection pool dot retrieve connection, correct? So that will give me the first connection. Similarly, we will be able to use nearly more 9. So overall 10, correct? So more 9. Now it would have been more useful if within db pool we can print some statistics, correct? So I will create a method to print statistics. So public void print stats, correct? So we can say system.out.println. Now in real world, this will be logger statements. Available connections, and we can say this as available connections dot size, correct? Same way we can again say system.out.println. Just like available statements, we can say in use connections, correct? And this is occupied connections dot size. So we can print these tags. So we can go back to our test and say db connection pool dot print stacks. Similarly, we can release this connection 1 object and then again go for printing the stacks so that we know what are the stacks and how they look. So this is the way we can make use of our pool. So let's try to run this and see how the output looks. So let's run this example. We can see that when we called retrieve connection, the connections were received correspondingly. Since out of 10, 2 connections we got, that's why in use connections became 2 and available connections became 8. Now once we release the connection and print stacks again, we can see that the released connection became available in the available connection, correct? And in use connection became 1. So you see the advantage of using the connection pooling. It gives us a choice of saying how many connections we required, correct? And storing the same. Now along with these methods, we could have also created a method to increase the number of connections. For example, we could have told public we can say void add more connections, correct? And we can say int more. So how many more connections do you want? Okay, so that we can easily do. Again, the loop becomes same. And instead of using initial capacity, we will use more, correct? We will use more. Now when we do this, we will also have to pass these parameters because we are not storing it somewhere. Had we stored in the class, we need not have to do this. So we can again keep it same signature as the earlier one. And I will pass the int more at the end. Okay, so pass it here, int more. So this will allow us to increase the available connections, correct? And make it add within our available connections. So this will allow us to dynamically add more connections if we feel that the number of connections are not enough due to some capacity problems, correct? So this is how we make a complete simple DB connection pool. Now in real world, we will never use a connection pool, or we will never make a connection pool ourselves. Very seldom we make use of connection pools, because there are many connection pools already available as third-party dependencies. For example, some of the well-known connection pools available are Apache DPCP, Apache DB connection pooling. Similarly, many people also make use of C3 connection pooling. There is another super fast, lightweight connection pooling by Hikari. So these are different connection pools which are already available. So instead of making a connection pool ourselves, we can make use of these third-party dependencies, which allows us the same features what we saw already, and also gives many more options and properties to deal with. So this is how we can make a connection pool. You can refer to our videos on the different connection pools which are available in market. We have integrated that with the help of an example. You can refer and see how you can make use of the available connection pooling mechanisms. While from coding perspective, this seems to be a complete working example which makes use of connection and makes use of a collection to store all the available connections. So this finishes this example, and we will meet you back with some new practical example to crack interviews. Thank you. Thanks everyone for seeing the solution of the two commonly asked question, but as told earlier, not everyone in the software industry is able to solve this problem. As told earlier, the more you share this video, the more number of people will get benefited by this particular approach and solution. And if you share this video, you will also get access to the third problem, which deals with telephone directory implementation in Java. This question has been asked in n number of companies across the globe. And to be very truthful, overall, very few engineers are able to answer this question. So please share this video and let us know so that we can share the third video for you, and which will also help us in recording more such solutions to the problems, which will enable you people to learn more about logic building and how to use a particular programming language to its maximum benefit, keeping in mind various memory management and performance metrics. Thank you.